We know our life is 50-50. Half of it's pain, half of it's pleasure. How do we deal? How do we process that emotional pain when we feel it? We're going to be talking about that this week on episode 230 of The Relaxed Male. This is The Relaxed Male, a show that comes to you each week helping men to remove the nice guy from their life so they can actually live their life on their terms. Join the host, certified coach Brian Goodwin, as he helps men step out of their heads and become free from the thoughts that bind them. Hey man, hello and welcome to The Relaxed Male. I'm your host Brian, and I am a certified men's coach who assists men who are just neck deep in the suffering of their life, whether it's a relationship problem with their wife, their kids, their boss, some other family member. We go through our day-to-day struggles, and we often get ourselves just completely wrapped around the axle when it comes to how we process that. How do we handle these emotional roller coasters that we go on that are relationship based? And that's what we do here at Relaxed Males. We help men figure out what it is that's getting in their way. Why can they not have the relationship that they want? Why can they not find the happiness that they're after? And we do that each week. We look at a specific topic, we tear it apart, we look at it, we examine it, and we learn and grow from that. So this week we're talking about processing emotional pain, because we go through that. We get several instances every day. Our life is 50-50. In the 50-50 principle, half of your life is going to be in pain. That is half of your day. That is half of your minutes, half of your hours. From time to time, from moment to moment, you're going to either be feeling pleasure or you're going to be feeling pain. Some form of pleasure, some form of pain. Pleasure, pain, pleasure, pain. Sometimes it seems like you're getting a whole lot of pain, and then other times you're just nothing but pleasure. But it equals out to where your life is always at half of it's going to be pain, half of it's going to be pleasure. And we avoid that pain in so many ways that it hinders us. It keeps us from having the complete and full, rich, full life that we really want to have. When we avoid the pain, we're blocking out half of our life. We're avoiding half of our life. We're avoiding half the experiences that we could be having simply because, that's something I don't want to experience. Well, tough, man. You're going to have to experience it whether you want it to or not. And that's a lot of the problems that we have, because we resist that life. We resist that half of our life. And what happens when we're resisting it? We're not allowing it to happen. All right. When you're not allowing it to happen, you're actually putting more energy into the circumstance that you could be going on about. Maybe it's having a difficult discussion with your wife, and you don't want it. You keep avoiding it. You're like worried about what's going to happen. So you're compounding more pain, more suffering. It's taking twice, if not more, energy to actually go through that process because you're worrying about it. When you worry about something, you're doubling the effort. You're going through the circumstance before you've even gone through the circumstance. And that's the big problem that you're going to run into. It takes more energy. You're worrying about stuff. So that worry is going to be doubled up, if not more. And so you're making your life even harder simply because you don't want to face the pain that you're actually supposed to face in life. Yeah, we would love to have our life just be full of joy and happiness, except for the fact that as we feel, if we were to in a land that was nothing but joy and happiness, then eventually joy and happiness would just become the norm. It would be your typical meh type of day. If you're worried about how are you supposed to feel happy all the time, you're not. That is evident with the 50-50 life. You're going to have those days that are just absolutely crap. And then you're going to have other days that are just amazing. And the low parts of your life, those deep, dark valleys and those trenches and those pits of despair that you're in, you could actually start looking at those as a blessing, because you're so far down that makes those peaks of joy and pleasure that much higher, that much grander. You want to have a wonderful life? Allow yourself to experience the pain and the pleasure. So what do you do? How do you what do you do? Just start ignoring the fact that it's pain? Not exactly. You don't just necessarily go, well, I'm not going to worry about this at all, and turn a blind eye to it and walk away from it. No, life, like I said, you have to be able to process it, to go through the pain that you're feeling. A lot of guys, they turn a blind eye, they turn their back to the pain. And this is why they start drinking all the time, because they don't want to have to face the pain. It's easier to buffer and to have other indulgent emotions instead of facing the emotion that you're needing to experience that moment. The fear, the uncertainty of talking to your wife about whatever is a scary thing, because how is she going to react? We don't know how she's going to react. We have no control over that. What if she gets mad? Well, you have to be okay with the fact that she gets mad. You avoiding trying to control her emotions by not having the conversation with her means that you're not going to be growing relationship wise as you want to have. So you have to do the hard thing. You have to have the hard discussion. And a lot of times you'll actually go off and be worrying about, oh my gosh, this is going to be so terrible. She's going to just not go for this, whatever the idea is. And she's not going to talk to me for a couple weeks. And come to find out, she comes on board with it. She's like, yeah, this kind of sounds like a good idea. All that pain, all that suffering was for nothing. Instead of, if you had allowed the initial thought, the initial worry, the initial concern to just be there, to feel that emotion and process it and go on down the road and actually have the conversation with her, step up and do the hard thing, the pain would be a lot shorter, wouldn't be near as bright, and would be a lot easier on you. You wouldn't have as much, as many gray hairs if you step back and allowed the emotions that you're fighting against to happen. Because you see, pain in our life, that emotional pain that we go through, is what you make of it. We often avoid things like sadness. All right. It's like, oh my, I don't want to feel sad. Well, tough. There's times that you're going to go through life and you're going to feel sad. So what do you do about that? You process those painful emotions, those times that you really don't want to, maybe you have some regret that, you didn't get to spend as much time as you would love to have spent with your dad before he passed. And you keep shoving that regret away instead of allowing that regret to wash over you. When you process the emotions, there's several key items that happen to you. One, you start to realize that first, the emotion is nowhere near as scary as you wanted it to be. It was just a vibration. That's all it is. And emotion can be viewed however way you want to view it. If you want to have a life that is as fulfilling as possible, you have to step into those painful portions of your life, realizing that, you regret spending time with your dad. You regret what you said to your mom or your wife or whatever. But knowing that the thoughts that you have around that circumstance are just your thoughts. They're not your mom's thoughts. You're not your dad's thoughts. You're not your wife's thoughts or nobody else's thoughts, but your own. And that the vibrations of that emotion just don't feel good, but they're not going to hurt you. If you're feeling sad, you're not going to drown in sadness. You're not going to die of anxiety. All right. What you're going to end up doing is you're going to have a unpleasant emotion. You're going to have a vibration that doesn't feel the greatest. And that's going to be whatever you determine is great or not great. Because you see, pain is what you make of it. Pain is what you have, is what your thoughts about it are going to be. You think it's going to be terrible, it's awful, it's going to suck. Then guess what? It's going to be terrible, it's going to be awful, and it's going to suck. But yet, with any type of emotion or any type of event, it takes a bit of skill to like process. How do you process emotions? It takes a level of skill to be able to just first recognize that you're feeling a bad emotion, then step through that emotion, experience it, let it live its life, and go away. Now, when I say let it live its life, a lot of people kind of wig out about that. It's like, oh my God, it's got to live. I've got to live with this thing. It's not going to last long. It's life. When you allow an emotion to run its course, minute and a half, 2 minutes, typically. Now, there are times, I will admit that there are times that, yeah, you're going to have an emotion that lasts all day, maybe even longer. You're going to have some more complex emotions that come about that it takes you days to process. And the reason why it takes days to process is because you're not actually processing the emotion itself. You're processing the thought that created that emotion. You have to figure out, how do you come about, turn around and process the thought so you have a clean, fearless emotion. But we want to make emotions mean something. And this is what really most of the time causes us to avoid it. We see sorrow and grief as these terrible emotions. We don't want to feel those because we're supposed to be happy all the time. Well, my first question is when I hear somebody say, well, I want to be happy all the time. Why? Why do you want to be happy all the time? Why do you want to go to your grandmother's funeral or funeral of a friend and be happy? Oh, well, I don't really want to be happy at my grandma's funeral. No, you actually want to be sad. There are times that our pain is actually a good thing. Being able to feel grief and sorrow for the loss of a human being is one of the most beautiful acts that we could do as a human for another human. Yet so many times we don't want to feel that emotion, especially when we get home. It's like, oh, well, I don't need to, I should be over it. According to who? It's going to take you a while to process and accept the fact that your grandma is not going to be around anymore. You're not going to be able to go into her kitchen and see her cooking eggs and bacon in the morning like you used to. I mean, I still miss my grandma. She's been dead coming up on 25 years or so, 25, 30 years now. I still remember when I was young, waking up, going into the kitchen, and she had bacon sitting on the counter for you to eat when you, as you wanted it. And it was there pretty much all morning. You'd walk by, snag a piece of bacon, and out me and my cousins would go. There's a lot of greatness in that. And remembering that isn't something you should shy away from. Remembering it is great. All those wonderful times, those feel-good emotions crop up when you remember the loss of a family member. How do you keep a family member alive? Is by telling the stories of them. You have to tell the stories. It's going to hurt a little bit. It hurts a little bit to remember back when my dad, before he passed in 2010, how he used to, he would be watching a little bitty box television in the kitchen. He'd be sitting at his table and he'd be tinkering with something. And it's always something different, but he was always tinkering with something. And from time to time, you would hear a crash of wooden blocks and metal pins and everything else. So there'd be just this cacophony of clank, 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 ding, 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 ding. And then out of from the kitchen, you'd hear, golly. And it was just my dad's frustration that he was trying to get something to get put together, and it didn't want to go to get together. Or you'd hear, if you go back there and you'd see him messing with something, he would screw up his face in a weird way. And he go, well, it came discombobulated. And the way he would, well, it became discombobulated. And but the whole scene there brings up the fact that my dad's not around anymore, but I still love him enough that I have processed those emotions. I don't shy away from the sorrow and the regrets that I have, that I don't feel like I was the greatest of sons to him, or at least not as great of a son as I now think back and believe he deserved. And a lot of guys would take that emotion, take those thoughts, take those regrets, and instead of stepping into them and feeling them, it's easier to drown them, to numb them with alcohol, with drugs of some sort. When instead of playing small because you don't want to feel embarrassed or feel bad, you would rather not do anything. You would rather sit and play your life small because you messed up somewhere along the way. You weren't the greatest son. Well, what would the greatest son be like? Start being that. Honor your dad in that way. Often we want our pain to end instantly, right then, there. All right, fine. I am tired of this. I'm tired of feeling bad. Boom, we're done. It would be nice if it was that easy, but our brain does not do that. Our brain is not about to just let something go, especially an unfinished loop. We need to have completion in one form, fashion, or another. You have to find the completion to finish a scenario. And that completion is what the thought process is. You're thinking of the time, and you have to allow yourself time to process. One of the things I recommend people do is choose an activity that becomes your thinking activity. I have two different instances of what types of thoughts I have when I'm doing specific things. One, when I am unstrapping a truck, which, if you know, I still drive a truck from time to time, and I haul a flatbed. And so there are straps that you have to take off of the cargo so that people can take it off. So the load doesn't just fly off the back of the truck as you're going down the road. That normally takes about 30 minutes to get unstrapped, unbungeed, pull the tarps off. If I've got tarps, roll the tarps up and all that. It takes 30, 45 minutes or so. I allow myself to have thoughts that considering different topics, and it can vary. Sometimes it is my thoughts on where I'm going with the business. Sometimes it's thoughts on where I'm going with a certain friendship or with a relative. I will have very specific thoughts about that. I will allow the thoughts that can become consuming to be processed at those times. Another time is whenever I'm walking the dog. Whenever I walk my dogs, I got two of them, got a Great Dane and a Sheepadoodle, and we walk about a mile, 2 miles at a time. And while that's going on, that's my processing time. That's when I get a chance to think about the thoughts. What is bothering me right now? Think it through. Why? And I go through it time and time and time and time and time again. About a year, 2 years ago. No, been about a year. I had a opportunity that didn't work out. I was out of the truck. It was exactly what I wanted. I wanted out of the truck. I got out of the truck, and it lasted exactly 6 months, and the money dried up, and I had to get back in the truck. And during that time, I wanted to hate on myself. I wanted to avoid talking to the people that I was involved with. I wanted to just shut down and step back, but you can't. I couldn't. So I had to do the processing of the thoughts, of the emotions, and deal with the emotional pain that I failed at that first attempt. And why did I fail? Because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't have the froggiest clue. I stepped into it and tried winging it, and I fell on my face. It was a good lesson I learned about life, about business, and I'm good about it. There's no hard feelings anywhere. in that whole event. And that is because I've chosen to not let pain feel bad, but just let pain feel. I can feel the pain. I can feel the sorrow, the frustration. I want this relaxed male to take off so damn bad that a lot of times that pain gets strong enough to where I want to just say, never mind. I'm not going to do this crap no more. And then my little brain goes, do you really not want to do it? Well, no, I love doing this. I love helping men like you. I love helping men see, holy smokes, life can turn around in a heartbeat and become grand if you allow it. And that's probably the biggest challenge that I have right now is how do I explain allowing of an emotion, allowing of a circumstance, accepting that circumstance as what it is so that you can move on. Because that's the ultimate plan. When you're processing these unpleasant emotions, you are actually finding a reason and a why to allow an emotion to come, do its thing, and fade away. So how do you deal with those emotional pains? How do you handle the emotional upsetting aspects, the bad vibrations of emotional pain? Well, it's really, it's as a whole, it's not hard. In practice, it's a challenge because you're going to be in your head. And like I said, it's a skill. You first have to notice, holy crap, I am pissed about something, or holy crap, I am sad about something, or I am angry. I'm frustrated. Why did I get mad at the guy who cut me off in traffic? Well, if you really sit down and think about it and you process the thoughts, you're going to notice that because you were afraid. You were afraid you were going to run into this person. You were afraid you were going to kill yourself, afraid you're going to kill the guy who pulled out in front of you. You were afraid that you were going to damage your car and you were going to drive around in a wrecked car for a while. There's a lot of fear in that. So yeah, when that fear came up, all of a sudden you had no control over your life. And that lack of control really pisses you off. So yeah, you got angry, man. I know. I get angry every time I go through Dallas. It's like, God damn. I mean, come on, man. Can you not step on the gas just a little bit more? You've got a four-wheeler. It takes you 0 to 60 in 10 seconds, while it takes me 0 to 60 in 10 miles. But to process an emotion, you first have to describe what is it you're feeling? What is it what emotion are you experiencing right now? Is it fear, anger, uncertainty, disempowering thoughts, forlorning? Are you feeling a bit forlorn? Are you lonely, feeling burnt out? Maybe you're feeling bored. Maybe the restlessness that you're feeling is the fact that you're feeling bored. Maybe that's the reason why you keep grabbing that phone and looking at your phone and looking at Facebook or any other social media app instead of seeing how you can best serve your wife, because you're bored and you don't want to be bored. You're afraid of being bored because you're not getting this serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin hits that you would if you're looking at your phone. You have to describe what that emotion is. And then act like, and just imagine, play imaginary that you've taken that emotion out of wherever it is you feel it. And that's something you can also describe. Where on your body do you feel it? Is it on the top of your head? Is it in the front of your head, in the back of your head? Is it in your neck or in your shoulders? Does it feel like it's a weight hanging on your shoulders? Does it feel like a bunch of metal bands wrapped around your chest? Does it feel like a fist is in the middle of your gut? Does it make your legs hurt? Where do you feel the pain that you feel? That emotion is being felt somewhere, because an emotion is nothing more than a vibration felt throughout the body. Where's that vibration originating at? And as you look at it, you can describe it. Is it big? Is it little? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it soft? Or is it hard? Is it smooth? Is it solid? Is it dense? You can start describing this. Is it fluffy? Is it scaly? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it pulsating or is it just a steady sensation? If it's vibrating, if it's pulsating, what's the frequency of the pulsating? Examine it in every little minute detail you can think of. And before you know it, you're going to be trying to examine it and you're going, well, it's not really there anymore. I don't feel it that much. And that's when you've processed the emotion. And if you'll notice, I said emotions last about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes tops. And when I said that, a lot of y'all are going, no, I have emotions that last all day. You're right. Sometimes you will have emotions that were going to last you all day, last more than all day. And that's because your brain is ruminating over that idea. Now, sometimes you're not. I've had times where I've had emotions just sit with me. I just felt sad for the rest of the day. I just felt ashamed for the rest of the day. I just felt uneasy, full of anxiety because I know that my boss is about to yell at me. And those are times that you just have to accept the fact that, you know what, I'm going to be walking around with anxiety hanging off my shoulders. I'm going to have to just deal with the fact that I'm feeling sad for whatever reason. I am uncertain about what my future is. That is okay. I can accept that. I will just have to do my job while feeling anxious, uncertain, sad, angry, whatever. Because sometimes we get those stubborn emotions that don't want to just quickly turn away. They want to hang on. And that's usually because we have a more complex thought that we need to break down. We have to find the why and believe that why as to why we don't need to worry about that circumstance anymore. As we break it down, as we look at it, and as we process it, it gets a little easier as the months go on, as you're talking and working it through with yourself. You'll notice that things get better. Now, if you find that you're struggling with that, especially emotionally speaking, and you're trying to process something that happened in the past, say in your childhood or something, and you're running into problems of being able to get past whatever that harm was that happened to you, if you're struggling with emotional issues that are because of the past, there's nothing wrong with going to talk to a counselor. Counselors come in very handy when dealing with past problems. While as coaches, we come in handy when you're dealing with the emotions and you're trying to come up with a solution to a problem that you're facing that will move you forward into the future. So if you are struggling with something in the past, please reach out to your counselor. Go talk to a therapist. Let them help you develop a set of tools so that you can get past whatever it is that you need to get past. While if you're running into problems of, well, how am I supposed to get this business going? Or how am I supposed to talk to my wife because she's going to get angry with me? Well, that's where we kind of sit back and we talk about it. We work it through and we come to the solutions. That's where I coach you through that problem. And if you're wanting help on getting to the next step or wanting your relationship to become better, you want to take it to the next step, it's time to take the next step. Taking that next step is setting up a consulting call with me. And if you want help on having a better, more fulfilling relationship, please step up to relaxmail.com and hit the show notes. And there you will see a link that will allow you to take the next step in whatever it is that you want to do. And so guys, with that, I want to say thank you very much for listening. And if, you're currently using one of the old legacy style podcasting apps, there are some neat features that are going to be coming to the show here soon. There's some neat features that are going to be coming to the show here real soon. But for those to actually work and for you to be able to have access to those new features, you're going to actually need a newer podcasting app, a podcasting 2.0 compliant app. And you can get those by going over to relaxedmail.com/new apps, NEWAPPS. And there you can choose an assortment. An easy one to set up and be able to utilize is actually Fountain. The Fountain app is a great app. If you're an iPhone user, Cast-O-Matic is great. Podiverse is also another great modern podcast app that will allow you to see things like when we start going live. Might be happening here sooner than you think. So if you are interested, have questions, you can send a question over to me at brian@relaxedmail.com. And I would love to hear what you have to say. So anyhow, guys, with that, thank y'all very much for listening. Y'all take care. See y'all next week. Till then, bye.